let's deal briefly with the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation matters arising, and then we'll take a break and return to deal fully with the president's encounter with the media and Iyoko's also invasion, quote unquote, of the Electoral Commission offices. Now, what is making issues a bit murky is that we're waking up to the news this morning that the Director General of GBC, who was asked by the board to proceed on leave because of the TV license fee courts or prosecution matters that have come up, and the organization took a lot of flack, he should proceed on leave. He issued a letter yesterday in which he says he will not respect the decision to go on leave. I'm going to read the letter that he wrote yesterday. And he says, this letter is dated the 19th of January, and it's on the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation letterhead. It says, Dear Board Chair, read board decision to proceed on leave. Apropos your letter dated 15 January 2018 on the above subject matter, I have taken note of the instruction to proceed on leave with respect to not seeking authorization before undertaking a major policy intervention. Undertaking a major policy intervention is in inverted commas or quotation marks. May I respectfully draw your attention to the fact that under my terms of contract, the National Media Commission is the only body with the authority to appoint, and after my terms of appointment, and alter my terms of appointment. Under the circumstances, I am unable to act on the board's directive until I have received express directives from the National Media Commission, who has been copied on how to proceed. Yours faithfully, Kwame Akofo, Anof in tow, PhD, Director General, and his copy, Chairman, National Media Commission, and Director, Legal Services, GBC. I start with Kweku on this. And earlier, the Ghana Journalists Association had also issued a statement condemning the move by the board and the board chair, asking Mr. Anochi to leave. Mr. Anof to leave.
You know what? We live in a law-governed society. That's what we live in. We are not in a jungle. And knowing the nature of human beings, the fact that we could at any time make mistakes or violate the law, consciously, directly, indirectly. That's why there are laws and there are institutions to cure the mischief, if the mischief does occur. So assuming without admitting, really, I think I'm inclined to believe that a recourse to the NMC would have been the best option, even in the face of my limited understanding of the law. But when somebody violates the law, what do? You go to the appropriate forum to cure the mischief. My view is that the Director General, yes, he can write that letter to show that a violation of the law or the act dealing with NMC, and there are cases that have gone to the Supreme Court way back as to who appoints members of the board, and the managing director, or Director General. These things are records. Settled. That's the appropriate word I was looking for. So why are we worried? If I were the Director General, I will proceed to the appropriate forum and cure the mischief by filing the appropriate processes in a court of law. You see, we need to grow this democracy. We need to grow a culture of good governance, of building on the principles that guide our democratic polity. So, and I'm sure we'll come to another issue which is a bit similar, where don't go to the office, so I will go. I mean, this kind of agitation, at the end of the day, it casts a certain signal as if we're a lawless country, which we are not. So, to be honest with you, even if the GBC board did the wrong thing, and I'm inclined to think they did something wrong, to be honest with you, instinctively and everything, I'm inclined to believe so.
In that respect, Kweku, we are to obey lawful instructions.
Oh,
so if he has reason to believe that the instructions of the board were unlawful, he doesn't have to go to court and waste and spend money.
No. So, but the cure is only in court, a sustainable cure. So he could go to the GBC place. When he gets there, the security people have locked the gate. How does he enter? When he goes to his office and the office has been padlocked, how does he enter?
Maybe that's the time he should.
You will become
dysfunctional.
You will not be functional. And in the long-term prescription is the court. You can appeal to the National Media Commission for starters, if you so want, for the National Media Commission to be activated, to look at its laws, and they could cure it there. Perhaps you may not even have to go to court at that level. But if the National Media Commission fails, and he thinks they failed not in accordance with law, he goes to court. So all I'm saying is that there are civilized options that we should apply to cure such mischief. That's all.
Writing a letter is not an uncivilized option.
No, I'm not. Oh, okay, maybe I should be a bit charitable, careful. I'm not talking of the letter that is written. The content says that I'm rejecting your decision.
Exactly, because it is wrong.
What's next? So what's next? Is it just rejection?
We don't know. We don't know the boss' reaction.
He has to. Well, we saw one, and that's. I don't want to preempt. We may be going to the EC. Okay, so I can see a situation where a similar scenario may occur. The man decides to go to the GBC place and work. He gets there, gate closed, or his door closed. What does he do? Is the letter going to cure that mischief? No. So I'm saying two options. Perhaps he should start with National Media Commission for them to activate them into action. Maybe they themselves should have done something already.
With the board in place, you can't go to Media Commission. Look.
Okay, you but you have a better.
You can come in. So you can come in, and then I'll get back to Kweku.
No problem.
And for us to interrogate the fairness or otherwise of this action against the Director General. Kweku is suggesting court should not be a last resort, which is what it ought to be.
You see, he's looking for a solution, and he's thinking we should go through the process. We are a nation of laws and that kind of thing. But the solution that he is even prescribing itself will create gridlock. You go to court for how long before you get back into your office? This is the classic definition of dysfunction.
He's giving you another route. Go to the NMC rather.
Yes.
You can petition the NMC.
You can petition the NMC. When you have a board in place, corporate governance is all decisions, all authority stops at the board. When the NMC puts a board in place, its hands are off. Legally, everything. The NMC can dissolve the board or whatever it is, but the NMC cannot go over the board to give instructions. So you have, again, dysfunction. And that is, look, the specific case is important, but I like to look at things from a bigger point of view. GBC is dysfunctional because it is erected on the faulty paradigm. A paradigm made up of state funding, supposedly independent control of a commission, which itself is a fallacy because you have state funding. And then that independent commission sets up a board, which effectively it has vested all its powers in and should not therefore come and interfere. Then you have a management that feels unhindered. And you can see that in their actions. They don't feel answerable to the people of Ghana. They are not answerable to the government because of the National Media Commission. They don't answer to the Media Commission because they have a board. And the board itself clearly is powerless.
Aren't you confirming Kweku's position?
I am agreeing with
say,
is a solution.
Okay, I thought you disagreed with him.
No, I am agreeing with him. But
if you say NMC cannot intervene after it has set up the board to manage and to play whatever a vested power in the board, then it means he cannot go back to the NMC to come into the situation.
So I am agreeing with Kweku that yes, you have a problem, but Kweku's solution is let's use the law and the process of law, which I also agree with. But I'm saying when you have an institution like that that has to run on a daily basis, that solution itself brings in what I am talking about, dysfunction. And
so what should he do?
This is, look, it's not about what he should do. Honestly, I feel GBC has lost this way. And that's why I spelled out these things. You have a management which is unhindered, does not feel that, look, the board really doesn't have any power. Because when the board has power, it means it has the power to hire and fire the chief executive. GBC board can't. So you have all this going on. Look, my solution for everything going on in GBC, if we have National Media Commission with legal independence to run this, vest 100% of the property of GBC in National Media Commission with a caveat. They should sell 60% of that on the stock exchange. People should buy that thing, okay, and then empower or in place a proper board that now can hire the CEO, fire the CEO, and control the CEO. Media Commission can also be there. What we are doing with GBC, we will continue going round and round. GBC has the best facilities in broadcasting in this country. I doubt even if GBC people themselves want GBC. And I'm not disrespecting GBC. My father worked in GBC. He retired in GBC as the head of scenery design. I have an emotional attachment to GBC. And I still go there when they invite me. I want to see it rise up and do great things. It will not happen in this dysfunctional system. Okay. And if I have time, I'll explain why it doesn't work. We should sell GBC, 60% of it, put it on the stock exchange, and let's move from there. Kweku solution will create gridlock before it creates a solution.
You haven't provided a solution immediate for this situation.
Okay. The immediate solution, okay, is to fire the chief executive. The immediate solution.
He's been asked to proceed on leave.
Yes, but
and we know normally what they mean when you say proceed on leave.
Yes, maybe you come back, maybe you not come back. But you see, the problem is this: I can go and represent the chief executive in court. Who asked him to go? NMC,
the board.
Okay. Now, what is NMC business in this matter?
NMC appointed him.
You see,
and he says by the terms of his contract, he's subject to the NMC.
As far as I'm concerned. He has caused such trouble that if he's fired, he cannot complain. Okay. But the board is the institution that has the power to do that. You understand? So you have this NMC thing where they are another board, and then you have a board which sometimes wants to act, sometimes doesn't want to act.
So I'll say let's go to a bit of the substance of what has triggered this and determine whether it's fair or not in the manner in which he's being dealt with. And Ima and Sami will come in from that point. Now, the board chair, Emmanuel Ado, Obeng Professor, had written on the 15th and asked him to proceed on leave. And this is the basis on which he asked him to proceed on leave. He says, board decision to proceed on leave. I hold the instructions of the governing board of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation to state that, 1, after review of management's decision to prosecute defaulters of TV license fee, the board has concluded that there was no authorization from this board or the previous board to invoke any processes for the prosecution of defaulters. 2, it is of concern to the current board that management did not seek authorization before embarking on such a major policy intervention, which has far-reaching implications for the citizens of the country. I hold the instructions of the board to inform you that you are to proceed on leave to enable the board to have further consultations with the National Media Commission in respect of the issues related to the TV license fee. You are kindly requested to hand over to the chairman of the board by the 17th of January 2018. Signed, Reverend Professor Emmanuel Ado Obeng. So the DG is supposed to hand over to him, and the basis is that the TV license matter, he acted unilaterally.
Yeah, the DG handing over to him, I have a small problem because if he has other executive, okay, the chairman of the board should not be coming to perform executive duties. That's 1. Number 2, honestly, if we have a TV license law, as we do on our books, okay, That law is anachronistic. It has long lost its, whatever. Now, the CEO of GBC technically does not need the authorization of the board to go ahead and perform what is essentially an executive duty. So technically he doesn't. I'm building slowly.
Right.
But given the potential consequence of this action, where he's invoking a law which is very unpopular and anachronistic, he should have exercised the discretion, knowing what the potential implication would be, to have gone to his board to get at least a cover, which he didn't do. That tells you about the dysfunction I'm talking about.
Which we are told he didn't do.
Which we are told he didn't do. That tells you about the dysfunction, because, like I said, he feels very unhindered in doing what he has to do. Now you have had all these problems. I posted on this TV, as I said, it's a disaster, and I'm hoping Parliament will repeal it and take care of all these problems. So, Samson, we are back to this same situation where you do, you are damned, you don't do, you are damned. The whole thing is all over the place. The man technically has not made a mistake.
Would your position be different if you got to know that on the 25th of September 2017, the letter that went to the Chief Justice, which eventually resulted in the setting up or the designation of the special courts to do the prosecution, that the board, at least the board chairman, was aware because he was copied. I'm holding a copy here. Those who were copied were the board chairman, the board secretary, the director of human resource, and the acting director of finance. This is the letter that sought audience with the CJ. And in the letter, they had stated why they wanted to meet the CJ. And the TV license and what to do with defaulters was a major reason they wanted to do so. Then subsequently, the CJ office wrote to invite them to the meeting. And they attended. I would think that the board may not have been unaware, because since they are on copy. And then there was the final thing.
Approved.
Right. Okay. Now there was a final thing. Let me bring that to your attention so that we can have a better discussion of the issue. Now, there was a final process, and this final process was a letter to the Ministry of Information. The Ministry of Information also has claimed that it was unaware. There was a letter to the Ministry of Information inviting them to the launch of this collection, at which launch it stated that the board chair actually was going to be there, was going to be part of these things, and you would assume that they all had been there.
I keep going back to this point, dysfunction. And it's important to me because when you try to solve topically small problems and you leave the bigger picture, you always come back to the same problem. So we should never forget the fact that this institution is dysfunctional because of all these things. Now, telling somebody I am going to do something is not the same as seeking permission. The board is supposed to have been copied and told what the chief executive or his team have decided to go and do, and they proceeded to do it. We can't assume, therefore, that the board approved it. They were just informed, we are going to do this. So I said you have a management that feels unhindered and the board that effectively has no powers. Okay. Now, how
does a chairman whose board does not approve of a process be part of its launch?
He was invited. Was he there? All these things are based on letters that are supposed to have been written. Okay. In this country, some letters are written, they are never delivered. We have had cause to complain about the use of official email systems because there's a law, the postal rule, that once it goes and says sent, you have a responsibility to act on it. In this country, we don't use it, even at the highest offices in government. So for all you know, these letters were done, they were left in some reception somewhere and never got to the people. Okay, but even if it did, these were invitations and information telling you what has been decided and they were going to do anyway already. If you didn't agree, were you going to call a board meeting and tell him not to go ahead? Dysfunction. This center is not holding. And until we deal with that fundamental issue where the chief executive knows that his job is hanging on the pleasure of the board, And the board also knows that they have to take care of certain things for the people they represent. And it's the people of Ghana who are funding this institution. None of that. Who does he respond to? Who is he afraid of? Who is he trying to deal with? Okay. So, in all of this, it's clear the board didn't approve. It's clear this is an act of management. On a technical level, they have a right to do it because there's a law backing it. Okay. But discretionary, you know, wisdom says that you should have checked. Okay. Nobody did any of
let's
that,
hear
and we don't know what the
briefly
solution should
on
be.
what you think on the basis of the information, for example, that I'm putting out. Would you say it is fair to deal with him in the manner that they are doing?
Well, you know, some of this information is coming to me as quite new.
At least if there was no authorization, there was notice somewhat, and we can only presume that the right thing was done.
Yes, so I'm drawing a distinction between informing and approval.
Right.
Yes, but initially I thought the board had no notice at all. I have to be honest.
We all thought so.
That's what I thought. So if that was so, you see, sometimes perhaps it's because the whole thing backfired. That's why the board is seeking to isolate or insulate itself from the consequences. Because the notice without approval, the board could have asked them to hold on. You're going to a whole Chief Justice to discuss that important issue. Did the board not anticipate what the results could be? Because you're going to talk about how to sanction people who are not paying a certain thing based on law, even though the law, as my brother says, is a relic of history. Okay? So I'm beginning to think that perhaps the board ought to be a bit, you know, they should hasten, not rush to mete out sanctions. It's looking as if they may have a certain level of liability as well.
Nonetheless, your proposition is that he shouldn't be confrontational.
No, it's not a solution.
Okay.
It makes him look like a street agitator, which he's not. Okay. I've met him twice or so. He's such a fine gentleman. You should keep that integrity and use the law.
All right. Sami, in the face of these facts, what do you say?
Something, you know, I've worked at the Ministry of Information before as Deputy Minister, and so I'm quite conversant with these matters. First of all, we must situate this discussion within Chapter 12 of the Constitution of Ghana, the freedom and independence of the media. The National Media Commission, under this chapter is, if you look at Article 167, one of which outlines the functions of the National Media Commission, one of its cardinal functions is to insulate the state-owned media from governmental control. You have a board chairman who is appointed by the government. Remember that when news broke about these TV license cuts, we had government communicators. They said that all of these actions by GBC, and then later they added DVLA, are being done by chief executives who want to make government unpopular.
Are being done on their blind side.
First, and on their blind side.
I just referred you to a letter from the GBC. It is dated the 24th of October 2017. That went to the Honorable Minister for Information, inviting the Minister for Information to the launch of, after they have secured the Chief CJ's blessing for all of these things, to launch the collection of the fees at the premises of the GBC. And this was supposed to be on the 31st of October 2017 at the main GBC station there. And it was also said that in this letter that the board chair was sort of the highlight of this meeting.
Something I must thank you very much for this very diligent search you have been carrying out on these matters, because I take the view that government is looking for a scapegoat, but government should be minded to consider Chapter 12 of the Constitution of Ghana. I also submit something that the National Media Commission has been too docile. They've been too timid. They've been too weak, too ductile, too tame and lame You know, something, the National Media Commission does not have to be prompted. The National Media Commission is not for nothing that Chapter 12 of the Constitution established the Media Commission to insulate state-owned media from all of these, you know, I don't want to use shenanigans, but, you know, all of these possibilities. So the National Media Commission should speak up on these matters and should take action. You appoint the Director General. It's the National Media Commission that appoints the Director General. The Director General is right. Something. He is very right that the Constitution of Ghana, the laws of Ghana, are being violated in this matter. The board did not appoint him. His position is protected.
The Fundamental tells you that the board, having been constituted by the NMC, the NMC cannot seek to, as it were, interfere in their work.
You know, that argument, I take a different view. I don't agree with him. Because you see, because yes, that's corporate governance. But
corporate governance.
Yes, you see, but where you have a constitutional body, the National Media Commission, are you telling me that when a board is created, the board then assumes the powers of the constitutional creation, the National Media Commission?
Is there,
I disagree.
The board is there to give direction to the institution, GBC,
yes,
not NMC.
Yes.
So once you do that, you vest your powers to them, and you should not interfere with them. They have to now go ahead.
Yes, but
which
you
is
see,
why I'm saying it is dysfunctional.
But you see, the
NMC should not even be appointing chief executive. The proper process is through the board.
But continue on the note that you insist that the GBC director is right. Continue on that note.
Yes. The GBC Director General is right, in my view. I think that government is looking for a scapegoat, a fall guy, because this backfired and people are angry. And you remember that this Director General was not appointed by this government, because then you ask the question: why is the DVLA chief executive who's board?
Director General is not a government appointment.
Yes. You know, but I'm talking about the era, in which he was appointed. Yes, during this tenure. Because you see, if you're adopting this approach, then legitimate questions arise about how come other chief executives who have done things that board chairmen have even put out public statements. You know, in the case of the DVLA, there was a public statement by the DVLA board chairman that we didn't know about this. You know, and yet nothing has happened to the chief executive, who is not protected by the NMC. You know, so if in the DVLA instance things are fine, the DVLA appears to have been left off the hook because he was appointed by the current government.
I'm not sure you are being fair.
No,
you are mixing up.
No,
it is not. No.
There are substantive issues we have to deal with.
You see, that is why I like Samson's diligent search about all of these letters, because I have said from day one that the claims by government officials that they are not aware of all of these processes, you know, the meetings, the launch, the letter to the Chief Justice, the establishment of these TV license courts, they were not aware. I mean, to even tell us you are not aware itself is an indictment. I don't know why they will continue to say that they are not aware.
You are being reminded that the comparison you are making with the GBC situation and the DVLA are just, they don't match at all.
Why?
DVLA, there may be a direct, you know, process of appointment by government.
Sure.
Yes.
But in this matter,
I said that.
Yes.
I said that. I said that. I made that point. I established that distinction, you know, I thought. And I proceeded to say that if government appears fine, because I heard Mr. Kofi Bonte saying that all of these unaware situations earlier, you know, chief executive should be fired and all of that, they're embarrassing the government. I read, I think, a statement you had made on a sister station. But the fact of the matter is that nothing is happening at DVLA, at least for now. But back to GBC, I agree with the Ghana Journalists Association. They issued a statement yesterday saying that the board...
They actually issued a day before.
Yeah, the board has erred, and that the National Media Commission should step in. I want to reiterate that call. I am on the side of the Ghana Journalists Association and the unions, the workers at GBC, that the Media Commission must step in. Their constitutional mandate is being usurped by a board. that this constitution.
What do you make of
Which they
Kweku's,
formed.
what do you make of Kweku's advice that the confrontational approach may not yield the best results? Because
Good
they say
advice.
go, and you are supposed to go from the 17th. On the 17th, you don't go, and then on the 18th, you don't leave. On the 19th, you issue a statement, calling their bluff that you won't go.
I don't see anything wrong with the statement. I agree with Andrew Kweku that he should not adopt a street agitator's posture. That's good advice. But it's also important that the Director General does not sit on his rights. He must be seen pointing to the board that he knows his rights, he knows who appointed him, and who really has the powers, and who he
doesn't answer to the board.
So there are, if you look at the functions of GBC, there are matters in which you are answerable to the board. Matters of your appointment, you are answerable to the NMC.
Okay.
So the NMC should step in. I think that the NMC is not helping this matter by their continuous silence. And you remember that I put out an article earlier, even on the NCA issues with the radio stations when we were withdrawing licenses and all of that. I said that the NMC must be heard on these matters, because, you see, media freedom, we have to be careful. Sometimes there are all kinds of unseen hands and all kinds of machinations behind the scenes and all. Uncle Kweku is an expert in this thing. He'll tell you. That is why there's a whole chapter in the Constitution dedicated to this matter.
Right.
So if care is not taken, if care is not taken, and the NMC doesn't show the look, we are there. We are the bulwark, and we are ready to defend media freedom.
Thank you.
Let's
hear
so
from
many
Emmanuel.
victims are casualties, and our
Let's hear
democracy
Emmanuel.
suffers.
Let's hear Emmanuel and let's take a break. Yes. What do you make of the developments at
You see, I'm
GBC?
laughing. The issue of unseen hands is why I'm laughing.
Okay.
And he's pushing it to Kwegu. I see him recounting his, days of getting involved in these things as deputy minister of. That's why he's not. I've seen hands. That's why I'm laughing. He used to be unseen hands.
But again,
Interesting point.
but again,
I should say I was making a confession. So why am I being put on the camera?
Again, don't you find it interesting, particularly when a bit not too much related, when the government said we're unaware, and this was the Ministry of Information officials that were saying government was unaware. Meanwhile,
but do you know it's
as far
possible?
back that the letter may not have been sent.
Do you know it's possible?
That the letter may not have been sent.
Yes.
I'll presume regularity
but did
until.
not get to the right place.
Yes. I'll presume regularity until the otherwise is proved. And the evidence appears to show differently. Is it possible, for example, for the GBC to have done all these launches and all without bringing in the Ministry of Information officials?
Something, you see, before you went into this question, Kofi had already made a fantastic statement about the fact that, and when he made that statement, I smiled, about the fact that the way we do things in terms of how we put out correspondence and how it has to reach, another point, it could be that this letter which makes you feel that government or the ministry that is supposed to superintend over this agency was aware.
And that the board had given authorization or at least had notice of the processes.
Well,
They didn't do anything until things went bad.
The moment that incident came up, I quickly pulled this. This is a letter I wrote to Foreign Affairs on a very key issue to do with my agency last year. And I was waiting for a response. After following up through with the foreign minister, it was indicated they had responded. I said, I have not had anything through my mail. And apparently they took a shot of it.
Your
and said,
Gmail?
No. The regular mail. They took a
You
shot
wanted
of
you to commit yourself.
they took a shot of it and sent to me. See, 27th December 2017. To date,
You still haven't received it.
I have not received it. So I have had to act based on this that they sent to me as their copy on their file. So these things are possible. So the fact that, Sami is making, he made this statement 5 times. Government is looking for a scapegoat. And that drew Kofi coming in to say that 5 times, that the system was aware, and if the system is not aware, that is unpardonable. I mean, these things, it happens. But let's put that, you know.
Yeah. So analyze the main point and tell us what you think the resolution
for me,
is.
I don't know. I don't know whether if GBC is under some spell. This situation where board comes in and there's always some impasse between board and then the director general. I've had some relationship with GBC dating back to 97, sorry. And that is when I got to know Kwame Akufo-Addo, who is the director general now.
Okay.
You know, I worked with other directors who were close to him. And we had a very good relationship. Even when he was made director general, we met at the function, he was like, we need to talk. You know. So this bit again where Sami is coming in to talk about the era. He didn't even talk about the era, but for when his attention was brought to the fact that, you know, it is not the government at the time that would have said they appointed him. So, you know, all these things that are coming up. For me, the approach which Kweku is advising against is what I think should happen. That we don't get into a situation where it becomes a difficult situation where doors are locked and that kind of a situation. We've had this at GBC before.
Now.
You know, the days of Ivaloko and Stephen Ade's board.
Ivaloko eventually sued and was successful.
She was locked out of the place. You know, and her office was kept under lock by her, you know, for, I think, months. So this issue that is coming up, if Kwame Akufo-Addo thinks that anything has not been done properly and he's seeking redress, especially with he drawing the board's attention to what, the decision they have taken, for me, I go for that. This issue that keeps creeping up at GBC needs to stop. And I would go for the suggestion Kofi is coming up with, that we sell the shares of GBC, because it's a fundamental institution. And it is quite sad that you get to hear that GBC cannot manage its own, you know, what's it called, establishment. You take smaller media houses and then they are able to break even. And then such a major media house cannot put itself together. I think that something is not right somewhere, and we need to readdress the situation.
Quick one. First, Parliament should repeal the TV license law.
Yes,
do it, and do it very quickly. Secondly, government through NMC can retain 60% of GBC shares. GBC's landed properties alone are worth over $10 million.
Absolutely.
So sell 60% on the stock exchange to strengthen the stock exchange.
Some of your viewers and listeners disagree with you on the privatization thing. YK
40%.
A Ansayabua says privatization is not an answer to GBC. Kofi Bentil and Imani and maybe now the CEO of the National Youth Authority, Emmanuel Asiri, are wrong. They think the answer to all our problems in Ghana is privatization. They are wrong. We live in many sectors in the UK and living through the ills of private investors only concerned about maximizing their profit. In the end, Kofi Bentil and co didn't give any immediate progressive solution. Listening problem, we all know, is the easy part. Okay, I didn't get the last part of that.
I'm sure you say listing problems.
Okay, yeah, listing the problems. Okay, so let me go through these messages and then we go for a break and return to deal with the president's encounter and Iyoko's alleged invasion. Not alleged invasion. Okay. Iyoko's visit to the EC's offices. Spike in Ohio says that the release on Dr. Bawumia's health status is in the right direction. This should extend to all government appointees. Paul Ado Kisi from Kwehu says, I think the government did well in keeping Ghanaians in the loop on the health of the vice president. We deserve to know. We are all on our knees interceding for him, wishing him a speedy recovery. Idris Odum in Bojoase, government wants to take over the University of Ghana Health facility and turn it into a mess like Kolebu. I was at Kolebu Hospital with minor bacterial infection. I nearly died because of bureaucracy. You don't seem to explain why, and I'm not saying you may be wrong, but you know, a lot of good also happens in Kolebu. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll be right back.